year, obviously, ended on a high note in terms of where this program's going. What do you have coming back this year, and do you set the bar even higher this year, considering the success that you had last year?
Yeah, I mean, that last year was a magical year. I think obviously 2020 kind of set that up with a lot of those guys coming back, and obviously we lost a lot of those. There's a lot of older players on that team. Colin Floyd, the rising pitcher of the year. We lost some all-conference guys, a couple guys in the transfer portal. So, I definitely think that it's been really exciting to see kind of the growth. We talk about development for our program, working on player development and developing those guys that are in our system. And I think you're going to see some of those guys really flourish this year. Braden O'Shaughnessy is a guy that, had some experience but hasn't played a ton. We lost a lot of experience in the infield especially. We lost Blaze Glenn, who was first-team All-Conference last year. Philip Glasser was a second-teamer. Jeff was a second-teamer. So, we lost those guys in that middle. That's where we're going to see it. Braden, Trey Law's a guy that's got some experience. He played a little bit in 20, played a little bit last year. So he's really come a long way. And then Seth Lacero's a guy that came in through junior college. And he'll probably play in the middle of that in that middle infield. So it's exciting to see those guys. We got Pat and Braden. Pat and Steve DeSanio back at first base, and our outfield is all fifth and sixth-year seniors. So a lot of experience there. So looking forward to kind of seeing those guys, really get to work.
Obviously, with Snyder coming back, it's nice to have, a guy that had success last year. But what do you think is the strength of this group? On paper, we can say one thing, but you're going to see it every single day. What do you think is the strength?
Well, I would say this is probably the furthest along and the most confident I've felt in our pitching staff, up into this point. John Snyder's a great guy to be in that front end. I had a great year last year. I think Travis Perry's a guy that's made a nice jump for us. He's going to be a Saturday starter for us. And Matt Broski has been as good as anybody up into this point. So I think he's going to surprise a lot of people this year. He's really, kind of come on. The velocity's taking that next jump, kind of changes arm action. I think we probably roll 11 or 12 deep in our bullpen. Chad Coles is a guy that has been probably our best reliever the last couple of years, but I think he'll slot into that fourth starter spot when we go to the 4-game series. He's got a lot of experience. I think he'll be one of the top guys in school history for appearances. And then, some of those guys that came along, you got Nathan Ball. Nick Perez was a starter for us last year. It's going to be in the bullpen for us this year. Lane Rhodes is a local guy from Salem that's going to fit into that mix at somewhere, whether it's in a starting position or in the back end of the bullpen. Alex Cardona, Casey Marshallwitz, some guys that we've haven't had a ton of experience, but I think are ready to take that next step and become really good. So I'm excited to see, once it's going to take some time to figure out where we piece these guys together. I think the starting rotation's pretty set, but like who's in what role, who's going to close, who's going to be, we lose Joel Hake, all-time leading appearance guy. Gary Clift was one of the best closers we've had here, and Dalton Eric. Those three guys had a ton of experience for us in the back end. So that's going to be kind of the cool piece to see how that fits in.
With that being said, we're trying to put the pieces together. Is this a rebuild, reload? How would you kind of classify this year?
I would say it's definitely reload. You were still bringing back a lot of experience. I think Don Bucko is probably, if he's not the best, he's one of the best players in our conference, and he had a great year last year. I couldn't be more proud of where he's at right now in terms of like his development and his mental focus and the way he's really can handle himself. So I think he's a shining star for us, from an offensive perspective. Turner Graz, a guy that we're going to get back at some point. That was, one of our best players. We got Lucas Nassani, who's been not many guys can say they've been a 5-year starter at the college level. So that's a ton of experience in the outfield. Austin Earl's a guy that came back, or that we got in the transfer portal. Had a huge year for Salem last year. Was our best. I think he was probably our best offensive player in the fall. So, there's good solid pieces there. So I don't think it's necessarily a rebuild as it is, a lot of sacrifice from these guys not getting as much playing time, but they learned a lot from being behind some of these guys and getting that opportunity to take that next step.
I think 13 of your players are local ties, being transferred in or what have local ties here. How important is it to get those local kids?
Yeah, that's been the building block of our program is getting guys from our area, guys that the number one thing we always tell our players when we're recruiting them is we want guys that want to be here. And for those local players, it's an easy sell because a lot of those guys, they want to be part of this. They've seen, what we've been able to accomplish so far, and putting the Y on their chest is really important to them. But we have great players from all over the country, and I think they'll all be there to help us. But those guys are definitely important to our program.
How about just from a confidence standpoint with these kids? What do you see in practice up to this point? Because it's not always just about returning starters. Sometimes these guys have been waiting for their opportunity, and they've seen firsthand what it takes to win. So is this a confident group going in, knowing that, hey, they finished third in the conference last year, and these guys maybe could chomp at the bit to show you what they can do?
Absolutely. I think, a lot of these guys have some stuff to prove, and I think part of it is just, we've always talked about sustaining success. This program's had a lot of success at times. It just hasn't been, for long periods of time. So I think that's the challenge that these guys are excited to take on. Like, those expectations are important to them. They want to have expectations. They want to be a team that can win a Horizon League championship. And but I think a lot of these guys, they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder because, a lot of teams outside, there's been some publications that is fourth or whatever. Like, they want to say, we didn't lose anything. We're here to take that next step, and hopefully they'll be able to do that because I think they're ready to.
How do you break down the season, Dan? Obviously, every year you're faced with playing 20, 22 games to start on the road, and then conference, you have some non-conference. So how do you kind of break down the season? How do you explain that to your team? How do you guys break this down?
You got to be road warriors. We're gonna have to be tough. Anytime you play the first 7 weeks, and you got to have really strong wives because I'm gonna be on the road for 7 weeks. But at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to prepare our guys to win a championship. And playing in great environments against good teams, I'm sure this weekend against Bethune-Cookman, they haven't played in 500 and some odd days because they didn't play last season. Got shut down. It's going to be an awesome environment. It's going to be in Daytona Beach. The Daytona 500's there this weekend, so I'm sure the crowds will be great. That's ultimately the goal. So it is difficult because we, NCAA rules, and we're not taking everybody. So there's going to be some guys that have to continue to develop here on campus while we're gone. That's probably the hardest part of this whole thing. But it's all about the experience. These guys are going to get an opportunity to get on a flight, fly to Daytona, go play baseball. I mean, it's a great experience for them. They're going to get to see places of the world that they might not have that opportunity to do if they weren't here. So we're excited for it, and I know that when we get here, play Pitt at home, I know our guys will be ready to play a game at Eastwood Field.
Last year, got to see what it takes to win 30 games and finish in the top half of this league. What's the confidence level of this team coming into this year, considering all of that?
I'd say the confidence level of this team is not higher or lower than last year's, but different. I feel like a lot of guys feel like we have more to prove this year than any other year. Every other year, the expectations have always been low. We haven't really had a chance to come off a success and prove that we deserve to be here and we deserve to compete with the best. I feel like we have a lot of young guys, a lot of new guys that are going to be taking over some big roles for the team, and just wanted to prove that last year wasn't, I guess the word would be, a fluke. And a lot of guys are just hungry to go out there and show that that success was from everybody's hard work before us, and now we're just continuing to work harder and harder each year to keep building off of that success.
When you look at this roster, what stands out to you as hey, this is where we're going to be pretty good at this year, or a standout strength of this group?
I'd say for the first time in a long time, we have 4 healthy catchers. Last year we kind of, Nick Caruso was pretty banged up, and Swarmer's always there. Swarmer's always going to play for us. He could have a broken leg and he'd still be running out on the field. But I think that his leadership for the catchers this year, and John Ritter's leadership with the catchers, the 2 freshman catchers we have, I think that's just going to be a big plus for us, not having to scrap together innings behind the plate and just having 4 healthy guys that are going to be pretty interchangeable.
How do you approach this season? I mean, you play 20 on the road to start the season, then come back, play a couple non-conference in the league. So how do you break down this season?
The 20 games on the road to start's pretty normal for us. We usually don't get to play back in Youngstown for a while because of the snow and the cold, which I don't mind not playing up here because it's pretty hard to pitch when it's 25 degrees and snowy outside. but you kind of just got to keep a steady mind and just keep your focus while, like, the non-conference games at the beginning are preparation for conference, but at the same time you're still out there competing and trying to win and trying to solidify yourself and solidify the team and get the whole cohesion of just a team, because we've played technically 2 games together, but those really weren't even set up as real games. It's kind of just all about just becoming a team essentially these first few weeks.
John, to be named preseason pitcher of the year by perfect game, obviously there's a lot of expectations come with that. So how do you kind of handle that and the expectations for you this season?
I don't really look into it very much. I've never really been one to have very many expectations on myself. I've always been kind of an under-the-radar guy. So when I see stuff like that, I mean, it's nice and all to have a little bit of recognition, but I just keep my head down, keep going, keep competing with my teammates at practice, keep trying to be the best that I can be, and it doesn't change anything at the end of the day. You still have to go out there and compete and work hard and be the best that you can be on the mound, because when I step out there on Friday night to pitch and I have the 8 guys behind me and the catcher in front of me, that hitter doesn't care about anything, any news article that was written about me. So I have to go out there and compete, and we all have to go out there and compete.
And I know Colin was a big mentor of yours the last couple of years. And have you kind of taken on that leadership role now with the pitching staff to step up and be that guy, to be that voice?
Yeah, Colin was a huge help in my career. I mean, I came in as a freshman with Tommy John, not being able to throw, run, or lift. And he kind of just gave me a wake-up call without saying anything. Just watching him go through the same thing I went through and the way he approached it, just a good wake-up call to show that, like, you still have to go to work every day. You still have to come in every single day, do what you're supposed to do, and try to be better than the guy standing next to you. Because if you're not trying to be better than the guy standing next to you when we're lifting, when we're practicing, then you're definitely not trying to be better than the teams that you're going to go out there and try to beat there in a few months. So Colin was a huge help with that. He always was the person that I was just trying to compete with in my own head, and I think it was a great help for me.
Pretty good.
Great job.